the 34th year of the Guangxu era, 1908, Wen stood in the ancestral hall, a grand yet eerie space filled with tall wooden beams and intricate carvings of dragons and phoenixes. His hands trembled slightly as he held the ancient family ledger, the scent of incense thick in the air. His father's funeral had just concluded the day before, and today he was to assume the heavy mantle of clan leader. Although his father had been the clan's patriarch, Wen had grown up in the city with his maternal grandmother since he was 5 years old. Apart from returning to the village 7 years ago for his grandmother's funeral, he was a stranger to the customs and traditions of his ancestral home. The hall was filled with curling incense smoke. The walls, adorned with ancestral records and memorial tablets, seemed to silently observe the young man standing there in his traditional long robe. "This is the family ledger passed down through generations of clan leaders. You must guard it well," the elder said, his tone unusually solemn as he handed over the book. Wen opened the worn pages, each filled with dense writings that chronicled the secrets of the village. The most striking entry detailed a mysterious shadow severance ritual. Every year on the vernal equinox, the entire village would gather in front of the ancestral hall for this ritual. At exactly noon, villagers would stand under the sunlight, ensuring their shadows were fully cast. As Wen carefully studied the ledger, cold sweat began to bead on his forehead. It revealed that, in every generation, a fixed proportion of villagers would find their shadows resistant to severance during the ritual. This proportion had remained stable at 1/3 of the population for centuries. The ledger meticulously recorded the fates of those whose shadows could not be severed. Each had been sent away from the village, their whereabouts unknown. Closing the ledger, Wen gazed at the flickering lamplight outside the window, a chill creeping over him. As someone utterly unfamiliar with village affairs, he now had to grapple with this unsettling tradition. Yet he felt an inkling that this was merely the surface of a far greater secret. A month into his new role as clan leader, Wen spent his days poring over the family ledger. He uncovered an unsettling pattern. The villagers whose shadows resisted severance were almost always in their 20s, while there were no such records for elders over 60. "This defies logic," Wen muttered, furrowing his brow as he flipped through the records. If this phenomenon were hereditary, it shouldn't correlate so strongly with age. Suspicion began to gnaw at him, hinting at a deeper mystery. An accidental discovery heightened his unease. While organizing old archives in the clan hall, Wen came across a sealed personnel record. The handwriting was unmistakably that of his predecessor. The records revealed the existence of a covert organization within the village called the Trackers. The members of this organization appeared to be ordinary villagers, but secretly had a special mission: to monitor those who had left the village. The ledger detailed the exiles' movements, occupations, and even daily routines. The sheer scale of this surveillance network sent a shiver down Wen's spine. It wasn't just the act of monitoring, it was the meticulous detail, the obsessive control over those who had left, that made it feel oppressive, as if the village's grip extended far beyond its physical boundaries. Why such rigorous monitoring, he wondered aloud, staring at the flickering candlelight. Wen sensed that he had stumbled upon a larger secret. The question now was whether he should continue digging. Trackers. Wen repeated the term, rolling it over in his mind. As clan leader, he had access to more of the clan hall's archives. Perhaps they would yield further clues. After days of searching, Wen found an ancient marriage registry buried in a dusty cabinet. Flipping through its yellowed pages, his pupils contracted sharply. All recorded marriages followed an uncanny pattern. This can't be a coincidence, he thought, his forehead damp with sweat. Villagers whose shadows were severed could only marry those with similar results. Conversely, those whose shadows resisted severance were invariably sent away before reaching marriageable age. A faded document tucked inside the registry caught his eye. It was an internal directive on marriage policies, explicitly stating, "To preserve the purity of the village, individuals with shadow anomalies must leave. They are forbidden to marry ordinary villagers. Violators will face clan punishment." Wen's hand shook as he recalled his cousin, who had suddenly left the village a decade ago at the height of her marriage prospects. The family had claimed she went to work in the city, but now, was she forced to leave because of her shadow? Determined to uncover the truth, Wen delved into the tracker's records. Using an old map, he marked the locations of all exiles. Gradually, a horrifying picture emerged. These individuals had been relocated to specific, remote areas, some deep within desolate mountain ranges. Why send them to such places? Wen muttered, staring at the red dots scattered across the map. The unease in his heart grew heavier. He began to suspect that the ritual's true purpose and the village's rigid customs concealed a far darker truth. One stormy night, Wen was working late in the clan hall when frantic knocking shattered the silence. "Clan leader, something's wrong!" An elderly villager burst in, panic etched on his face. The boy from the Li family. His shadow. Wen immediately understood. Following the villager, he rushed to the Li family's home. 18-year-old Li Bao lay in bed, burning with fever. Most disturbingly, even in the dim room, his shadow remained vivid, emitting a faint glow. "This is a sign of awakening," said a gravelly voice. Wen turned to see his uncle, who had quietly entered. His expression was grim. "Clan leader, it's time you see the place." Guided by his uncle, Wen arrived at an abandoned well, hidden within a dense grove of bamboo at the edge of the village. The overgrown path leading there was littered with fallen leaves, and the faint sound of rustling foliage added to the mounting tension. Removing the stone cover revealed a staircase descending into darkness. Deep underground, they entered a stone chamber. The walls were inscribed with glowing runes that flickered in the torchlight. At the center stood a massive stone tablet, its carvings revealing a chilling truth. The villagers carried an ancient light force within their blood, which awakened upon reaching adulthood. "Each generation has its awakenings," his uncle sighed. "The shadow severance ritual identifies them." Wen finally understood the strict marriage rules and the exile's destinations. Reading the tablet's final lines about the seal left him breathless. The torchlight crackled as Wen traced the stone tablet's engravings. A shocking secret unfolded before his eyes. "This is why our ancestors created the marriage policies," his uncle explained, his voice heavy with sorrow. Restricting unions diluted the bloodline, reducing the number of awakenings. The light force wasn't a blessing, but a curse. Awakened individuals eventually lost control of their powers, descending into madness and becoming monstrous beings. The tablet recounted a chilling tale. 2 centuries ago, a young awakened individual fled to the outside world, refusing the seal. His uncontrolled powers obliterated a town in a single night, leaving thousands of dead. Since then, his uncle sighed, every clan leader has been tasked with identifying and guiding awakened individuals to the seal. It's not exile, but protection. For them, and for the world. Wen stood silently before the tablet, moonlight filtering through the well's opening. He finally grasped why the village's seemingly cruel traditions endured. They were the wisdom and sacrifice of his ancestors, preserving balance at a great cost. A year later, Wen stood by the clan hall window, watching his shadow grow unnaturally clear in the sunlight. He knew the day had come. During the annual shadow severance ritual, his shadow resisted for the first time. That night, alone in the underground chamber, Wen wrote in the ledger, "I, Wen, as the 18th clan leader, record my awakening. The traditions of our ancestors, though harsh, are profoundly wise. They protect the awakened and humanity alike. Today, I choose to journey to the seal, safeguarding this delicate balance." The next morning, his uncle accompanied him to the edge of the forest. Wen's shadow glowed brighter with each step, guiding his way. Reaching the valley encircled by runes, he felt a profound sense of calm washing over him. The runes shimmered softly, casting a serene glow on the ground. As Wen stepped into the valley, he saw a group of figures waiting, men and women, whose shadows also radiated light, their expressions a mix of solemnity and welcome. Among them, He recognized his cousin, who had left the village years ago. Her face carried a peaceful resolve. "Welcome home," she said, her voice steady. "Here, we ensure the world remains safe, together." Wen nodded, his heart heavy yet determined. He understood that his journey was not just about his own fate, but part of a greater responsibility passed down through generations. As he joined the others, the glowing valley seemed to pulse in harmony with their presence, a testament to the delicate balance they preserved. From that day forward, Wen became a guardian of the seal, dedicating his life to maintaining the fragile peace between light and shadow. On quiet nights, as he stood on the valley's edge and looked out at the distant stars, he would think of the village and the wisdom of his ancestors. Their sacrifices had given him clarity. True courage lies not in resisting fate, but in embracing it and finding a way to protect what matters most.